What happens when one choice, one single moment, ends a civilization? Today we're going over the most catastrophic decisions in history. Not a series of mistakes, not years of bad choices. One decision, one person, and everything after that moment is annihilation. Let's start with a safety test that accidentally destroyed the Soviet Union. It's April 25th, 1986, just past midnight at Chernobyl nuclear power plant. You're working the night shift. Your supervisor, Anatoly Dyatlov, wants to run a safety test. This isn't weird. Reactors run tests all the time. This test was supposed to happen during the day shift with experienced operators, but there was a delay. Now it's midnight, and Dyatlov wants to run it anyway. Here's the thing. Your reactor's already acting weird. It's been powered down for maintenance. Xenon gas is building up. The reactor's less stable than usual. Your instruments are giving you readings that make you uncomfortable. You mention this to Dyatlov. He's not interested in your concerns. We're running the test, he says. Continue. Dyatlov's under pressure. This test has been delayed multiple times. People above him want it done. You've got a choice. You can refuse, insist this isn't safe, risk your job, risk your career. Or you can trust your supervisor, trust the system. You continue. You start reducing the reactor's power, but it drops too fast, way too fast. The power plummets to almost nothing. The reactor's on the edge of shutting down completely. This is dangerous. You tell Dyatlov. He tells you to bring the power back up. You're pulling control rods out. Lots of them. More than you should. You're past safety limits now. Way past them. But you get the power up. Barely. The reactor's running, but it's angry. Your instruments are screaming at you. Multiple safety systems are flashing warnings. We need to stop the test. You say, no. Dyatlov says, we're running it. Start the test. And here's the decision, the single decision that destroys everything. You can shut it down right now. Abort the test. You'll probably get fired, but the reactor will be safe. Or you can trust your supervisor. You run the test. You press the button. The test begins. Immediately, everything goes wrong. The reactor power spikes massively. Instruments are maxing out. The reactor's heating up faster than you've ever seen. You try to shut it down. You press AZ5, the emergency shutdown button, but there's a design flaw. When the control rods drop, they actually increase the reaction before they suppress it. It's a quirk of the RBMK reactor design. The power spikes to 33,000 megawatts. The reactor's designed for 3,200. The fuel rods shatter. The cooling water flashes to steam. The pressure explodes the reactor vessel. 2 explosions. The first blows the reactor apart. The second blows the roof off the building. You're standing in the control room. The building shakes. The lights flicker. Alarms everywhere. You look at your instruments, and they're not making sense. Dyatlov goes to check. He comes back and tells everyone the reactor is intact. Just a hydrogen explosion. No breach. The reactor is fine. They continue operations, but the reactor isn't fine. The reactor is on fire, exposed to the air. Graphite burning. Radioactive material pouring into the atmosphere. The explosion blew a 1,000-ton reactor lid off like a bottle cap. But Dyatlov can't accept this. Soviet reactors don't explode. It's impossible. Firemen arrive. They start fighting the fire. Nobody tells them it's radioactive. They're getting lethal doses with every minute they're up there. They're walking on pieces of reactor core, picking up chunks of graphite with their bare hands. Some of them will be dead within weeks, others within days. By morning, it's obvious the reactor's destroyed. The radiation is so high that instruments max out. They can't even measure how bad it is. The Soviet government starts evacuating Pripyat 36 hours after the explosion. 36 hours of people breathing radioactive air. The exclusion zone eventually covers 1,000 square miles. 350,000 people permanently displaced. The radiation cloud spreads across Europe. Sweden detects it first, then Germany, then France. Increased cancer rates for decades. The cost of cleanup runs into hundreds of billions. And here's the darkest part. This disaster helps collapse the Soviet Union. The government's lies about the accident, the obvious incompetence. It destroys trust in the Soviet system. If they can't even run a nuclear reactor safely, what can they do? 5 years later, the USSR falls apart, all because someone decided to run a safety test when the reactor wasn't ready. One decision, one moment, and everything after that was catastrophe. Your Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, June 28, 1914. You're visiting Sarajevo with your wife Sophie. It's your wedding anniversary. This is supposed to be a nice trip, except Sarajevo is in Bosnia, and Bosnia is complicated. Austria-Hungary annexed it 6 years ago. Serbian nationalists really don't like you being here. Your security team is nervous. There are rumors of an assassination plot. But you're an archduke. You can't just hide. You have official duties. The motorcade route is published in the newspaper, because apparently announcing exactly where you'll be and when is just what you do in 1914. You're driving through Sarajevo. Open top car, waving to crowds, and then someone throws a bomb at your car. The bomb bounces off. It explodes under the car behind you, injuring several people. Your driver speeds up. You get to the town hall safely. You're shaken but unharmed. Now you've got a decision. Your security wants you to leave. Get out of Sarajevo. The people who tried to kill you are still out there. Staying is dangerous. But you're an archduke. You don't run. And there are people injured in that explosion. Officers in the car behind you. It would be dishonorable to leave without checking on them. You insist. You're going to the hospital. Just change the route. Take a different street. Don't go through the city center. Makes sense, right? Visit the wounded. Show you're brave. Take a different route to be safe. Reasonable decision, except nobody tells your driver about the route change. You get back in the car. Your driver starts driving the original route, the one published in the newspaper. Through the city center, your security officer realizes the mistake. Wrong way, we're supposed to go straight. Your driver stops right there in the street in front of a delicatessen, and standing in front of that delicatessen is 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip. He was part of the assassination plot. He stopped there to eat after the bombing failed. He thought the plan had failed. His friends had failed. It was over. He went to get a sandwich, and now your car is stopped right in front of him, 5 feet away. Princip pulls out his pistol. He fires twice. One bullet hits you in the neck. The other hits Sophie in the stomach. You're sitting there bleeding. You're trying to talk, but the bullet hit your jugular. You're dying. Sophie dies before you do. You die a few minutes later. A wrong turn. A stopped car. A coincidence. Austria-Hungary blames Serbia. They issue an ultimatum. Serbia partially accepts. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia mobilizes to defend Serbia. Germany mobilizes to support Austria-Hungary. France mobilizes with Russia. Germany invades Belgium to get to France. Britain enters because of Belgium. Within weeks, all of Europe is at war. World War I. 4 years of trench warfare, chemical weapons, machine guns mowing down thousands, 16 million dead, 20 million wounded, entire countries destroyed. The Ottoman Empire falls, Austria-Hungary falls, the Russian Empire becomes the Soviet Union. The war creates conditions for World War II, for the Holocaust, for the Cold War. And it started because you decided to visit a hospital, and your driver took a wrong turn. You're Napoleon Bonaparte, June 1812. You're the most powerful man in Europe. You've conquered most of the continent. Your empire stretches from Spain to Poland. You've defeated every coalition formed against you. Austria, Prussia, Russia, Britain's on an island. You're basically unstoppable, except there's one problem. Russia. Tsar Alexander was your ally. He'd enforced the continental system, the blockade against Britain, but Alexander stopped enforcing it. Russian merchants want to trade with Britain. You can't let that slide. If Russia breaks the system, other countries will too. Britain wins by default. So you're going to invade Russia, teach Alexander a lesson. Your advisors are nervous. Russia is big, really big. The supply lines will be incredibly long, and Russians burn their own crops rather than let invaders use them. Your advisors tell you don't invade, at least not now. Wait until next year, better preparation, or try diplomacy again. But you can't wait. Waiting looks weak. You've never lost. Every time someone said your plan was too ambitious, you proved them wrong. At Austerlitz, at Jena, at Wagram, you win because you're bold, so you decide to invade. June 24th, 1812. You cross the Niemen River with 685,000 soldiers. The Grande Armée, the most powerful military force on the planet. Your plan is simple. Move fast. Catch the Russian army. Destroy it in one decisive battle. Force Alexander to surrender. Be back in Paris by autumn. Easy. Except the Russians don't fight. They retreat. You chase them deeper into Russia. Your supply lines get longer. The roads are terrible. It's summer and it's hot. Your soldiers are marching in brutal heat. No shade. Limited water. Horses are dying. Hundreds of horses dying every day. Supplies aren't reaching the front. Your army is already smaller. Not from battles. From desertion. Heat exhaustion. Lack of food. You started with 685,000. Halfway to Moscow, you're down to 300,000. You finally catch the Russians at Borodino, September 7th, 1812. The battle is brutal. Artillery bombardment like nothing you've ever seen. You win, technically, but you lose 30,000 men. The Russians lose more, but they can replace losses. They're fighting in their own country. You can't. You're 1,000 miles from home. You take Moscow, September 14th. The city is empty. The Russians abandoned it, and then they burn it, the whole city. 80% of Moscow destroyed. The supplies you were counting on, gone. The shelter for winter, gone. You wait in Moscow for Alexander to surrender. He doesn't. He's letting winter come. By October, it's getting cold. You need to retreat. You should leave immediately. But you wait. You keep thinking Alexander will negotiate. He doesn't. By the time you start retreating, it's late October. Winter is coming, and you're 1,000 miles from safety. The retreat is hell. Temperature drops, snow, ice. Your soldiers aren't equipped for winter. They're starving. They're freezing. The Russians are harassing your retreat. Cossacks picking off stragglers, partisans attacking supply wagons. Your army collapses, not from battles, from cold and hunger. Soldiers abandon weapons, horses die, artillery left behind, discipline breaks down. It's not an army anymore. You cross the Berezina River in November. It's chaos. Bridges breaking, soldiers drowning, Russian armies closing in. By December, your army is destroyed. Of 685,000 soldiers who invaded, maybe 100,000 make it back. Most wounded or sick. The invasion of Russia breaks your empire. Your enemies see you're not invincible. They form a new coalition. Over the next 2 years, they defeat you. You abdicate in 1814. You try again after escaping from Elba. You lose at Waterloo. Your empire is over, all because you decided to invade Russia when your advisors told you not to. One decision, one moment of confidence that you knew better, and your empire collapsed. Here's what all three have in common. One decision, one moment where someone had a choice, and they made the wrong choice. Running the test, visiting the hospital, invading Russia. These aren't obviously stupid decisions. They had good reasons. They weren't being reckless. They were following orders, being brave, being bold. They were doing what seemed right. The Chernobyl operators could have refused. Franz Ferdinand could have left Sarajevo. Napoleon could have waited, but they didn't. And they couldn't undo what they'd set in motion. So those are 3 times when a single decision destroyed everything. Running a safety test, taking a wrong turn, invading Russia. One moment, one choice, and millions of lives changed forever. The reactor operators thought they'd just get the test done and go home. Franz Ferdinand thought he'd visit the hospital and go back to Vienna. Napoleon thought he'd be back in Paris by autumn. They were all wrong, and none of them could undo what they'd set in motion. If you want more videos about moments when everything hinges on one choice, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.